What's up, people? My name is Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, currently ranking and reviewing the 26 Frank Zappa tours that I've deemed worthy to be called tours. The 60s have all become one tour. I made random decisions in 73 and 74, and I have decided that this one, number 10, Fall 77, is a different tour than Winter 78, even though it is the exact same band and almost the exact same set list, except for pretty much two differences. Those two differences being so major in my overall appreciation of the tour that Fall 77 can only make it as high as number 10, while Winter 78 is not 9. I'll give you that. So yeah, there's space between the two, even though this tour, as I talk about it, just know it is almost identical to Winter 78. I think as the tour goes on, I think like most new bands Frank has, it kind of takes a while for the band to gel. I think this band gelled pretty early in the shows in September. This was from September 8th, so late summer into fall. September 8th show, the September shows started September 8th. The September shows are still pretty good, and there are some absolutely fantastic moments in those shows. But I really think once you get to like mid-October through the end of the tour, which is like November 20th, you can listen to almost any show from that run, except maybe that November 20th show, and it is just ridiculous, fantastic, and might contain some of the best music you've ever heard Frank play. This band is just absolutely ridiculous. The performances are ridiculous. Everybody is bringing stuff to the table. It's not just about Frank solos. Like, everybody can solo and everybody can play. And as far as the set list goes, I think it is, except for Winter 78, which has the perfect set list, at least as far as construction goes, and what Frank is, how Frank always incorporates new material and mixes it with old material, and like what any given Frank tour is the balance of what that is almost, and how well you like that new material is going to go a long way to determine how well you like that tour. I really like this new material, and I love all the old material he's brought. So it's for my taste, this is like a perfect tour. The band, Frank Zappa on guitar, the only returning members, Patrick O'Hearn on bass, and Terry Bozzio on drums. This is by far the grooviest rhythm section I think Frank ever had. This is the best rhythm section for the height of disco, because they could play disco when they wanted to, and Patrick O'Hearn, the bass player, would just play some of the like funkiest like grooves, and like and then Bozzio would fall in right behind him, and like kind of just the way they worked together, and they like did a good job of establishing these rhythms, but like creating tension and then giving you release. And like, I don't know, Bozzio, O'Hearn, when I think of O'Hearn, I think of him like, there was a basketball player on the Spurs. I don't know where he is now because he got traded away. Kyle Anderson was his name. Sorry, Kyle, I don't know where you're playing now. But probably the slowest basketball player I've ever seen in my life. Like, when he drove to the basket through the lane, you were almost like he was doing it in slow motion, but his rhythm was so slow that like nobody knew how to defend him, because their rhythm was all off, because they had really never encountered anybody that was like that. Like, what are you doing? And I feel that's like how O'Hearn's bass playing is, in that it's not like he's nowhere near as manic as Arthur Barrow, nowhere near as sort of what I think is kind of robotically mechanical as Tunis. I think that's his strength, as he sets up these really strange rhythms and then just kind of freaks out on them and returns to them. Definitely not as sort of Phil Leshy all over the place as Fowler. He's like a groove bassist, but he supports the like soloists, whether it's Pound for Brown or in any Frank solos in Torture. His support is so like kind of setting the groove, but at the same time pushing off into these weird just little excursions. But I don't know, just I think one of the most fascinating bass players Frank has ever had. so long. I didn't expect to talk so long about Patrick O'Hearn, but I'm realizing how much I absolutely love this guy. And then the rest of the musicians are new to the band. Ed Mann on percussion, Tommy Mars and Peter Wolf on keyboards. Their duo would stick around all the way through '79. Absolutely fantastic. And then Adrian Belew on guitar and vocals. And I think, and Bob Dylan impersonation. And I think, and wearing a female cadet outfit from like the U.S. Air Force for some reason. Or is it a stewardess outfit? I think it's a cadet outfit, but that would be wrong. To wear a cadet outfit, maybe? I don't know. Anyways, he dresses up for some reason. You can see that in Baby Snakes, the movie. So yeah, Adrian Belew, who I think provides, I will get to that later. But anyways, where can you hear this band? Well, you can see this band on the Baby Snakes movie. This is the Baby Snakes band. And you can hear 6 complete shows from this band on the Halloween '77 release. 6 complete shows from this band. I once said that 6-show run might be one of the best Frank ever had, but I changed my mind because I'm pretty sure there's a 6-show run in November of this same tour that is better than the Halloween 6-show run. The first 2 shows are strong, but not as strong as everything but the last show of November. I think I'll go out on a limb and say that. But I would describe this band more than, this is going to sound wrong at first, but like a fun band. Like, I compare it to the '81, '82 band, which is another young Frank band, and they had a very almost defiant, brash energy. Like, hey man, we're talented, we're young, we're coming at you hard, like that kind of thing. Where this band is like, we're young, we're talented, we can do whatever we want, we're gonna have a good time, and we're gonna party, and who wants to party with us? Let's do it, people. I mean, it's just, everything about this band is like positive energy. And when they're playing absolutely ridiculous songs or soloing or supporting each other in solos or just letting Frank conduct them through all kind of weird noises, there is just like, everybody sounds like they're having like the best time of their life. And that just carries through in the music. And I'm not saying when I listen to other Frank bands, I hear the tension, but this one, it's like, they're like giving away the fun. It's like, it just has an absolutely amazing energy about it. So yeah, it ran from September 8th through November 20th. Fun band. I think the best way to sort of get a grasp on why this show is so good is to look at the set list. So there was really no opening solo. Frank had not got to that point yet. So the show would generally open with the sort of, I think it's the Bob Dylan section of Flakes, the dun 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 dun, yeah, the Bob Dylan section of Flakes, in sort of like a opening, just kind of upped a little bit more preppier and upbeat, and the band would come out and play that. Frank would come out, introduce the band, and then they would go right into Peaches and Regalia. On the following tour, Frank would insert another song here before Peaches. And so they would, they'd come out, he'd do the introductions, and then there would be a different song that was played. That different song is a song that I pretty much only like on Winter '78, and it makes a huge difference, I think, in the overall set list, because it was a new song, and to come out, you're seeing Frank maybe for the first time, maybe every time, and he comes out on the following tour and plays a song you've never heard before. That's a Frank thing to do, but there's something about that where you're a little like, oh, okay, yeah, I got to get into this. But then he plays Peaches. On this tour, he comes out and he just plays Peaches right away. So almost right away, he's just like giving you something. And I like the other one better where he's like, no. I'm going to make you work first. Then I'm going to give you your Peaches. Then he's going to give you The Torture Never Stops, which I think this is the second best version of this song, as far as the performances, as far as the guitar solos. I think the Winter '78 version is the best version of this song by far. It is the peak of Torture, but this is slowly approaching that peak. The solos generally had 2 parts to them, where like the first part was a little more airier and lighter, and Frank using somewhat of a thinner effect, and then he'd sort of like midway through generally, or like a third of the way through, depending on how long the solo turns out to be, he would sort of like get more aggressive and like I think use more distortion, maybe change the tone on his guitar, and just kind of up the energy a little bit. And on the following tour, he kind of abandons that 2-part structure and just kind of ups the energy from the beginning. So I think that kind of holds these solos back a little as far as the sort of compositional narrative Frank is able to establish over the course of the solo, because it's sort of a 2-part solo, but they're still really good solos. And the Bozio O'Hearn the Bozio O'Hearn rhythm section is ridiculous. So yeah, anytime they get a chance to support anybody soloing, like you can tune out anybody and just listen to Bozio and O'Hearn, and you're gonna still have an amazing time. So then they play Torture. Then they get Trying to Grow a Chin into City of Tiny Lights. And the City of Tiny Lights, I think Adrian Belew's vocal performance is the best of all the City of Tiny Lights. I think the arrangement on this version, for some reason, is my favorite. It's pretty much just drums with a very and the keyboardist lead almost the entire like charge until we get to the solo section when Frank delivers an amazing solo. We have that part as it is heard on Shake Your Booty, and then the end of it. I just think for a song that doesn't have a bad version, I don't think any band did this song in a way that you're like wishing they did it somewhere different. For some reason, this one just works better than any other for me. The solos were better in the 80s. But these are not bad solos, but just the whole vibe of this, I think, is the best. And that's followed by Pound for a Brown on the Bus, in which the keyboardists get a chance to solo. And again, Bozio and O'Hearn are amazing. For the first week of the tour, before Conehead became its own song and entered the set list, Frank would solo in Pound for a Brown, and then his solo was essentially the Conehead riff. And then he would solo over that, and then they would go into the rest of the set. After about a week, there was no more Frank solo in Pound for a Brown. They would go into the next song, and then after that next song, which was the same song pre and post, would be the instrumental version of Conehead until pretty much into November when King Kong would take its place. But if you have not heard that, you can hear a very short snippet of it on the Baby Snakes music video after they do Bobby Brown, after they do Bobby Brown, and or you can hear 5 incredible versions of it on the Halloween '77 box set. So they play Pound for a Brown, then they do Bobby Brown. Frank usually tells the story of like the journalist and why he wrote the song, which again I don't care for this part of it, but I think if you look at the set list and you're like Peaches, if you're a Frank fan, Torture, but this version is by far better than the version on Zoot Allures. Like everyone in the audience, I'm sure, is thinking that to themselves. Trying to Grow a Chin, you've never heard, but the drummer is singing it. City of Tiny Lights, you might have heard on the previous tour, but it's not been officially released, and the rhythm guitar player is singing it. Pound for a Brown off Uncle Meat. Frank then comes out and talks and does the song called Bobby Brown. They then play Conehead, which is like this absolutely amazing instrumental that just features a phenomenal Frank Zappa guitar solo. Then they play Flakes. Flakes at this point is pretty much the same Flakes as we know on Shake Your Booty, except after the Bob Dylan part, it pretty much plays the short version of the Dylan music instrumental, I think is what it is, and then it just ends. So we don't get either the closing Adrian Belew solo, which makes Winter 78 such a phenomenal tour. It does occur once on New Year's of this tour, but it's only once, and I'm going to give credit to Winter 78 for that one. It doesn't include the amazing Adrian Belew solo, nor does it include the lyrics that Frank overdubbed over the amazing Adrian Belew solo on the album, in which he then just does live from there on out. So we get Flakes, we get Big Leg Emma, amazing random Old Mother song thrown in there. Absolutely amazing random song. Envelopes makes its sort of return after being recorded by the early, you can hear that on Mother's 1970. They recorded it. That song is now here. It has lyrics. If you are not familiar with the Envelopes lyrics, this is the same Envelopes that is on Ship Arriving Too Late to Save a Drowning Witch, which the 81 and 82 band played a lot. But Tommy Mars sings these, and they are, I mean, I hate to ruin the song for you, but it pretty much, it goes, you are my desire, you come to me in dreams through a garden wall. It's covered with a lot of dew. I suppose you're covered too, just slightly wet. Better yet, you're my stew. I don't know what a lot of these other songs are. I have question marks. But then at one point, covered with a lot of dew. At one point, he goes, I'm screwing you, I'm screwing you, I'm screwing you. Oh boy, I'm doing it. And this is Tommy Mars singing that. Squat on my blaster, make it go faster. Then a drum solo. So, yeah, it's a completely different song when those lyrics are sung over it. But Tommy Mars is pretty good. I think at one point on one of the Halloween shows, he like scat sings it. He doesn't actually sing the lyrics. He just kind of mumbles his way through for some reason. But no, there were words, actual words to this song. Drum solo, then we get Disco Boy out of the drum solo, and I'm not a big fan of Disco Boy, at least the album version, but I love the way it chugs out of the drum solo. It chugs. Then we get Leather, I Promise Not to Come in Your Mouth. Either I think Peter or Frank take a solo in this. Wild Love, which is the monster song, at least as far as length goes of this tour. Keyboard solos, percussion solo, absolutely ridiculous. O'Hearn, Bozier support during the whole thing. Then at one point they switched to a disco vamp, a dun 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 dun, over which Adrian Belew plays like an Ebo solo, where he like is manipulating the sound and it's like wah wah wah. I mean, just very like your very typical Adrian Belew sort of electronic, altering the sound and using the strings and technology to make it sound weird solo, but it works perfect. Early in the tour, Frank would kind of solo. When Adrian was done, Frank would kind of just take over the solo, and then O'Hearn would usually like just kind of slowly usher his way into a different vamp. But that eventually just became where after Belew would finish his solo, the band would cut out and Bozier would do that just really slow beat that would open Yo Mama. So it was not yet Yo Mama, but it was essentially that same slow, everybody evacuate the space, we're making room for Frank, and Bozier is just providing that really like just slow opening intro to like, all right, we're in a new section now. So really long song. A lot of people get a solo. Always closes with a ridiculous Frank Zappa guitar solo. Eventually, he settled on the riff that I guess is known as the Squirm. It's on Bowling on Karen, Charon, Charen on the Transfusion album. But that's and he would play with that riff a lot of times in the Wild Love solos, and then just kind of go off from there. And again, you can hear 6 of these on the Halloween 77 release, one of which is the Bowling on Karen, Sharon version. Yeah, just, I mean, ridiculous stuff. Then after that, you get Titties and Beer. Like, what better song to have after, like, 20 plus minutes of, like, improvisational madness. The Black Cage #2 with dance contests. Jones Crusher, again, Belew just absolutely slaying it. Broken Hearts Are for Assholes. And then Punky's Whips. It would only appear on this in the following tour. Such an absolutely a true Frank Zappa, just awesome composition. Just, it has the humor, it has the sort of ridiculous theatrical aspect to it, it has absolutely amazing composed parts in the middle, and it closes out with just a ridiculous guitar solo. And then you get your encores, your standard Dynamo Hums, Camarillo Brillo, Muffin Man, San Bernardino, and if you were very, very lucky, a Black Napkins, which would always just devastate. Yeah, so pretty much that was the set list every night. King Kong got added in November and pretty much popped up where Conehead would, and it was, I think, only a guitar solo vehicle on this tour, but a really, really good guitar solo vehicle. At the Halloween shows, they played Jewish Princess. I'm pretty sure it is the only live version of Jewish Princess. At least it is the only live version I know that I have heard a tape of, but I don't think it was ever performed again. Baby Snakes pops up on New Year's for the first time. And I think that was about it for songs that were played. Old Lang Syne at the Halloween show. Flo and Eddie popped in and dropped in for a couple songs at the end of September, September 29th, and they played Road Ladies, Would You Go All the Way, Daddy, 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 and Do You Like My New Car? So they did that. Dancing Fool, which would make a huge difference in the set list in Winter 78, got its premiere at the Halloween run. And then then Marking the Change into Winter 78 would appear at the New Year show. What else popped up? Again, I mentioned that Stinkfoot, Poodle Lecture, Dirty Love popped up a couple times. Once at Halloween, I think for the sole purposes of Frank recording it for the Baby Snakes movie, and then twice in November, the Stinkfoot Poodle Lecture twice with Dirty Love once. I don't think Dirty Love was there the third time. And what? Oh, Finder Finder popped up on New Year's. And again, it just sounds as awkward as Finder Finder always sounds until we get to 88, which finally figured out, I think, how to play that song for the first time. And yes. So I Have Been in You popped up 3 times. And again, and during these, Frank would explain sort of the teenage girl monologue and the pop star of your choice. This was a song that he was inspired by Peter Frampton's I'm In You. Again, I think you can see the entire monologue. I think it's on the Baby Sticks movie. But again, this is the song that would essentially move in after Pound for a Brown on the Winter 78 tour in the Bobby Brown spot. I like this song better, I Have Been in You, but the opening monologue that Frank gives about the teenage girl and her teenage sex life and all that stuff, it just, I didn't think it was funny the first time, and the more I hear it, the more I'm just like, it's just, you're going on way too long about this, dude. I have never understood that particular monologue. I mean, I understand it, but I just don't get what he saw in it. Like the Poodle Lecturer, I understand a little more. Like he had an obsession with humans and sexuality and objects that were not other humans. Like that was a continuous thread. But this is I don't know. The I Have Been in You one, that opening lecture, I don't enjoy. But I do like the song better than I like Bobby Brown. Illinois Enema Bandit popped up, I think, twice. And what else? That's about it, I think. I mentioned San Bernardino was a common encore number. Yeah, so that's about it for this tour. Again, listening to stuff early on, I think October 2nd, that is a really good show with a really good City of Tiny Lights and a really good Black Napkins. But then anything from October 20th all the way through to the last show of the tour, but not the last show of the tour. That November 20th show may be the weakest of the run. The New Year's one is okay. But anything from 10/20 to anywhere in November, and definitely that entire 6-show Halloween run is worth checking out. It's a really good tour, a really fun tour, one of Frank's most perfectly constructed set lists that would get even better when it hits Europe in the winter of 78. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with this. It's great. Go listen to it somewhere. But anyways, yeah, that's it. Roya, the bass player from the original Mother, shows up as a special guest on one of the Halloween shows. You can see him in Baby Snakes, the movie. I think he's there a couple nights. The road manager does a human trombone solo on one of the Halloween shows. Thomas Nordig does a magic trick. He's just a guy that seems to be hanging around in Frank's circles over the years. And yeah, a lot of weird stuff. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got to say. I'm just rambling at this point. Let me know what you think about this tour. I feel weird putting it at number 10, but like the other 9 are stupid, ridiculously good. So I thought, it's got its twin sister representing it much closer to number 1. So it's just going to have to be satisfied with that for now. And Patrick O'Hearn, I think, I don't know, man. Every time I listen to a 73, 74 show, I'm like, Tom Fowler is easily my favorite bass player. And then I listen to one of these shows, I'm like, you know what? O'Hearn's got to be my favorite bass player. I don't know. I love it. I'm going to go listen to a show from this band right now after talking about it. So anyways, thanks for watching. Comment, subscribe, all that stuff. I appreciate it all. And take care, people. Peace.